So I recently returned from the Sundance Film Festival where I saw a lot of movies, both in person and virtually. I had an amazing time in Park City. It was my first trip in 18 years. I got to meet up with some friends that I've only known through Zoom the last couple years. To wrap up my thoughts about this year's Sundance, I thought I would reveal my 10 favorite films I saw at the festival. I saw 20 movies total. I would say only 3 or 4 I didn't like. I'm not going to talk about those here. If you really want to know, comment and ask me which ones, I'll tell you. I mean, Past Lives was the only one that had a real profound effect on me. But another 2 or 3 I would say I loved, and many of these films I really liked. So let's start with a few runners up that I admired that didn't quite make the final list. Magazine Dreams was an oddball for me in that I loved the central performance, but the movie itself never fully worked for me. I thought it was a little too long and it was very dour all the way through. It had some scenes early on that I liked a lot, and then it just kind of lost its way for me. But that central performance by Jonathan Majors is spectacular. He's the reason to see it. It's great. I mean, it could get some Oscar buzz later on this year because he is so fantastic in it. Just the movie itself didn't quite work for me. It reminded me a lot of Nightcrawler in some ways, in terms of its cinematography and some of its pacing, but I think Nightcrawler is much more successful of a movie. Cassandra is a lot of fun. Gael Garcia Bernal gives one of his best performances in recent years. I was really taken with his approach to this real life wrestler character. It's a very bold performance and it works. Again, kind of like Magazine Dreams, the movie just didn't pull me in the way I was hoping for, and only in fits and starts did I really like it. So it's definitely worth seeing for Bernal's performance, but it just didn't quite land for me. I really enjoyed Still, a Michael J. Fox movie. It's very gripping and entertaining as you watch it. I was kind of disappointed by like the last 15 minutes. It felt like the really important part of Fox's life was just starting to be explored, and then the movie's over. I was like, okay. Like, we really go in depth on his career in the 80s, going from Family Ties to Back to the Future and some of the films he made in the 90s. But I feel like the movie could have explored even more what his life has been like from the 2000s to today. I feel like there were some things left on the cutting room floor. I don't say this too often, but I feel like still a Michael J. Fox movie would have been more successful with an additional 20 to 30 minutes. Like, I wanted more. Maybe that was my issue with the film. I just wanted it to keep going, and then it was over. So, but it is coming to Apple TV Plus, I want to say, and it's definitely worth your time. I liked a lot of that. The Starling Girl was the second in-person film I saw at Sundance this year, and it's really interesting. Great cast. It's got this kind of lyrical tone to it that I admired. I felt like the last 20 minutes didn't work so well. The Starling Girl is one of those Sundance movies I feel like you enjoy when you're in the room watching it with an audience. But this one didn't really leave much of a lasting impression on me. I haven't thought about it much since I watched it, but it's well made, well acted, solid coming of age drama. If you see it on streaming in the months to come, maybe check it out. And Cat Person. Okay, Cat Person might be the movie that I enjoyed the most that's not on my top 10, because I had a very deep hatred for the main male character throughout the movie that just it put me off in a way that I struggled with. And the movie also jumps in and out of genres to the extent that I was getting kind of frustrated, but it's very entertaining. It's shot really beautifully. It's edited well. The two main performances are excellent. And there's a lot of really great creativity throughout the movie. But it really does in the third act become this crazy horror film that didn't quite gel for me with what came before. The first hour of the movie, you're laughing a lot. Like, some of it's very funny. And then it just gets darker and darker and darker. And it has this crazy, almost slasher movie like final 20, 30 minutes. And then it's just over. Like, the movie ends extremely abruptly. Like, I'll never forget at Sundance being like, wait, that's it? It's over? Like, It needed something at the end. It needed an extra scene or two in that last 10 minutes. I felt like Cat Person kind of leaves you grasping on air a bit at the end. I don't really know what I'm supposed to take away from this movie, but while you're watching it, often it's very entertaining and there's a lot I liked in it. I would recommend you see it. I think it's going to stir up a lot of debate, and I'll be curious to see what happens with that title. Okay, so let's get to my top 10 favorite movies at this year's Sundance Film Festival. Number 10 for me is Shortcomings. I know a lot of people online have complained about this movie that the main character is a little bit too mean-spirited and not the most optimistic protagonist as of late in a movie, but I was kind of taken with him. I found him charming. I liked his self-deprecating nature. Justin H. Min plays the main character, Ben, and he works at a movie theater. He's obsessed with film and the Criterion Collection, and I was really taken with all of that and his struggles with love and relationships. It's not a movie that people are going to be nominating for awards and things, but I had a good time with it. I laughed a lot. I found it moving at the end. Great ensemble cast. I would check that one out. Number 9 is Eileen. This was a very frustrating movie in that I really loved it for about an hour. Like for an hour, I was really into this movie and taken with its cinematography, its score, its main performances. Anne Hathaway plays a character in this movie that you haven't really seen her play before. She's a little bit devious and mysterious. I loved her work in this. And the Christmas period setting is really lovely. And it's a very faithful adaptation of the novel Eileen. And that's part of the problem with it. Just when you feel like the movie's about to go somewhere really interesting, it takes this strange detour into almost genre territory. And the last 30 minutes kind of leaves you feeling empty. Like it doesn't really work. I was kind of struck when the credits rolled, like, wow, I was really with this movie for a while, and then it just kind of drops off a cliff a bit. Not to say that the last half hour is terrible, it's still well made, it's still interesting, it just doesn't really go where you hope it will. The relationship, the potential romance between the main two female characters doesn't really go anywhere in the third act, and that felt kind of disappointing to me, but there is a lot to like about the movie, and I would recommend it, especially if you love Anne Hathaway like I do. Like, it's one of her best performances in recent years, and just overall, I liked a lot of it. Even though it didn't quite stick the landing for me, this is not the next Carol. It's very reminiscent at times to the Todd Haynes film Carol. I would recommend it. I think it's interesting. Number 8, Talk to Me. This is the best horror film I saw at Sundance. I watched it later, virtually. I'd heard some praise for it, so I wanted to check it out. And boy, is this movie scary. Like, is this movie pretty intense? I love the main concept. The scenes of the supernatural are really effective. We got a few really good jump scares at the beginning. And then in the second half, we kind of go away from jump scares and go into this really creepy mood vibe that I gelled with. I don't think it's completely successful as a horror film. It's not going to be one of my 2 or 3 favorite horror films of 2023. It does lose a little bit of steam at the end, but for a while, this is a wild ride. Really fun, really scary. Check out Talk to Me. Number 7 is Theater Camp. This movie put a giant smile on my face all the way through. I was really looking forward to this one. I thought this one could be a lot of fun, and it was. It's got that mockumentary style to it that I love in films like by Christopher Guest, and we've seen in a lot of sitcoms like The Office and Modern Family, and most recently Abbott Elementary. And it vibes with this movie. Like, I like the choice to make this a documentary style comedy, and it's really funny. It's got some great character beats throughout. It's not just like, hey, let's put on our big Broadway style show at theater camp. Like, there's a lot going on behind the scenes. Terrific ensemble cast. I love the songs in this movie. I felt like if theater camp takes off in any way, like at least one of these songs could be in the conversation for an Oscar nomination a year from now. I do feel like this movie is going to do very well. I do feel like people are going to respond to it. I didn't see it with an audience. I saw it virtually after I returned home from the festival. Of all the movies I did watch virtually later, this was the one I felt bummed about. I'm like, that would have been really cool to see that at like the opening night premiere with a giant crowd. I bet it would have been amazing. So it didn't have that kind of effect on me. I was watching it by myself later on at home. But even watching it like that, it was still a very effective comedy, very entertaining, well paced. Check out Theater Camp. I think this one's going to be a big hit later on this year. Number 6 is Flora and Son. Now, this film I did see in person at Sundance at the world premiere screening, where there was a huge standing ovation for its director, John Carney, and its amazing cast. You know what you're getting with Flora and Son if you've seen Carney's other movies. He is not reinventing the wheel here. He's not giving us a different kind of genre that we're not used to. It tells a very relatable and moving mother-son story. And then it's also about the love of music, how music can heal, how music can bring people together. And what I was really taken in Flora and Son is the lead performance by Eve Hewson, who plays Flora. She is spectacular in this movie. She's got a wonderful arc all throughout. You really see different shades to her character, and she brings a lot of presence and passion to her performance. Like, she is really great in this. I would love to see her get some awards buzz later on this year. I think she's that good. Everyone else in the movie is terrific. Joseph Gordon-Levitt has a solid supporting character. We don't see him in person very much in the movie. A lot of his scenes are on a computer. We're just watching him like on a screen. So if there's anything that kind of holds the movie back from greatness, it's a lot of looking at Joseph Gordon-Levitt on a computer screen, which I don't know if every viewer of the film is going to be taken with. John Carney does this really cool thing, though, that brings Joseph Gordon-Levitt into the world of the main character that I liked a lot. I thought was really clever. And the last 10 minutes or so are just so dazzling, so heartwarming. This one's a lot of fun. I think you'll have a great time at Flora and Son. I certainly did, and I can't wait to see it again. It's really, really fantastic. Eve Hewson gives a phenomenal lead performance in this. Number 5 is Passages, the new movie by Ira Sachs. This is the director of some really terrific indie films in the last couple of decades. 2 of my favorite films of his are Keep the Lights On from 2012 and Love is Strange from 2014. He has another LGBTQ gem on his hands here with a terrific ensemble cast, including Ben Whishaw, with characters who are oftentimes not likable, who you don't necessarily want to see succeed. The main character is so frustrating at times. The choices he makes, the way he pushes people away when he should be pulling them closer. I love that the writer-director Ira Sachs never made you feel like you had to identify with one of these 3 main characters, that you had to root for any one of them. It gave me a lot of the storytelling qualities I love in kind of quirky, character-driven films of the 1970s. It's that good. It's really immersive, and you really are taken with these characters and the journeys they go on. And the ending is very moving and real. The way we stay on one character for a while until we cut to black, I thought was a great choice. I don't know if this is a movie for everybody. I think some people might be put off by the intense sexuality. I thought that Passages was really vibrant, bold storytelling. Another film I saw at Sundance I can't wait to watch a second time. It's really terrific. Check it out. Number 4 is Rye Lane. I love Rye Lane. This is the last film I saw at the Sundance Film Festival virtually. So I started watching movies in person on a Saturday there, and then about a week later, I watched my last movie virtually at home, and that was Rye Lane. I did not want to miss this one because I'd heard from a few people, including the Oscar expert and Brother Bro, that it was really great. So when I finally had an opportunity to check it out, I did. It's extremely short. It's probably the shortest movie I saw during my week at Sundance, in person and virtually. It's like 82 minutes. But boy, does this movie pack a huge punch for that short of running time. It reminded me a lot of one of my 10 favorite movies of all time, Before Sunset, which is also very short. I believe Before Sunset is only 80 minutes long, following 2 people talking in real time. It's not in real time like that, but it's a film where two characters come together and they get to know each other for the first time, and they're just walking and talking often. The movie does have some comedic situations. We get a moment at the end of the second act that kind of draws the characters away from each other for a while. There are some elements of formula in the movie. The ending is very big and broad, but I liked that about it. I really was taken with these two characters. They have this really quirky, delightful meet cute in a bathroom, and then you just start to see a spark between them that grows and grows. There's this lovely scene in a restaurant where the main character is kind of passing off this girl he just met as his new girlfriend in front of his ex-girlfriend, and that's a really funny scene. It's just a very, very charming movie that I believe is coming to Hulu in the next few weeks. I don't think you have to wait a long time to see this one. It's really delightful. This is not a cynical movie. It's not a movie that gives you like a ton of surprises, but it's really well made, well acted, a lot of fun. And it's got this just wonderful ending that brings a smile to your face. I love the final few shots. I haven't forgotten them. What a great movie to end my run of 20 films at Sundance. This was a great one to go out on. I'm so happy I got to it right at the last minute that I could watch it virtually. And it's great. When you get a chance, Eileen, don't miss it. Number 3 is You Hurt My Feelings, the newest film by writer-director Nicole Holofcener. This movie is pure bliss. If you enjoy her films of the last almost, 30 years now, you are going to adore You Hurt My Feelings. I had very high expectations for this one. I love Enough Said from 10 years ago, also starring Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who is the star of her newest film. I've seen almost everything that Holofcener has done. I've liked or loved all of her films, and this is one of her best. This is one of her funniest movies. Like, from the first scene, you are laughing at a lot. And I'm always just so taken with her films in that there's not this, huge plot. There's usually not a major conflict. That is the case with You Hurt My Feelings. The conflict of this movie is very small. It's very small. You're like, okay, this is the central problem of the entire story. But you go with it because the characters are so believable and relatable, and it has so many funny situations all the way through. There are scenes in a therapist's office that are so hilarious. David Cross and Amber Tamblyn are the two MVPs of this movie. Just get ready for their scenes in this. They made me laugh so hard while watching this. The movie has so many great actors in it, not just Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Jeannie Berlin plays her mom. Tobias Menzies from The Crown plays her husband. The screenplay is very sharp and quirky and full of surprises, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus is fantastic in this. If you're a fan of hers, you can't miss it. I think she and Nicole Holofcener have this wonderful kinship together. I hope they make another 2 or 3 films. They work really well. They complement each other. I just was taken with this movie. I think audiences are going to love it. So many great plantings and payoffs. I love the ending. The last scene of the film is perfection. It was just really a great time. I love getting to see them in person at the festival and talk about this movie. I don't know when it's coming out. I'm sure it'll go to theaters at some point. Don't miss You Hurt My Feelings. I loved it. Number 2 is Fair Play. This is the first movie I saw at Sundance. I arrived on a Friday night, and Saturday morning I went to a press and industry screening to see Fair Play. I just had a feeling about this one. I had read up on it before I left for Park City, and I felt like this one might be my jam. A relationship story set in the finance world. The cast is really excellent, and I was just hearing good things about this one. And boy, I was not disappointed. There were moments in this movie that were so shocking and outrageous and amazing. I was sitting forward in my seat, something I don't ever do. I don't really do that watching a movie. This one I did. My jaw dropped toward the floor at some of the surprises, at the revelations, at the way that these two characters keep one-upping each other and yelling at each other. And you think they've reached their breaking point, and we're not even close. Like, there's another 7 scenes to go. And it reminded me in a way of The War of the Roses. It's got that kind of vibe, not in the comedic nature, but just in the way of like two people in love in the first scene, and then seeing that love slowly disintegrate over the course of nearly 2 hours in ways that you will not see coming. Like, this is a brutal, brutal movie. It's a very smart movie. It understands its world very well. It's always compelling and riveting storytelling. Like, there is not a single lull in Fair Play. Like, it's always gripping, and especially that last like 30 to 40 minutes. I mean, it almost works like a thriller, but it's not a thriller. It's a relationship drama that goes to some very dark, unexpected places, all the way to an almost Shakespearean final scene that like completely stuck the landing for me. Like, was the perfect way to end this story. The two central performances are fantastic. The whole ensemble cast, I thought, was really great in this. And Netflix bought it for $20 million. I was not surprised to hear that, because it is that good. It is a phenomenal movie. I cannot wait to hear what you guys think of Fair Play. And the number one movie of Sundance, of course, is Past Lives. If you want to hear my thoughts on Past Lives, which, as I said at the beginning, might be my favorite movie of 2023. We'll see what happens. Check out my video I posted about a week ago. The title is Why Past Lives is a Masterpiece. I break down that film's story. I talk about what I really loved about it. And it's just a really special piece of filmmaking that I have not stopped thinking about since I saw it at a press and industry screening at Sundance a few weeks ago. It is an incredible film that brought tears to my eyes. Do not miss, whenever it comes out, by A24, Past Lives. Again, I saw so many terrific films at the Sundance Film Festival. For INSESSION Film, I wrote reviews for 6 of them, including Eileen, You Hurt My Feelings, and Fair Play. I've included links to those 6 reviews at INSESSION Film below. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments below what films from this year's Sundance are you most looking forward to seeing. I'll catch you next time.